Hello guys, welcome back to another video. So we're going to be working on the BMW 130i today with the N52 engine, of course, and we are going to be removing the intake manifold. So I have a couple of jobs that I need to do. I'm going to be replacing the starter motor, I'm going to be replacing the crankcase ventilation system, you know, the breather itself, and all of the connected pipes as well. But in this video I'm just going to be showing you exactly how to remove the intake manifold, and I'm going to kind of try and show you in as best detail as possible. So I know there are a lot of videos on YouTube doing this, but nothing really in too much detail. So in this video I'm going to try and show you exactly how to do it, you know, every bolt that you need to remove and every step that you need to do to perform the job. Now, if you are going to be removing your intake manifold, I would recommend replacing the intake manifold gaskets. So this is what they look like. So right here we have some genuine BMW ones. These are just these circle O-ring type gaskets. Now these, like I said, are genuine BMW, and I got them from Fixed Parts Online. If you want to check these out, you want to check out Fixed Parts Online, or you want to purchase these, I will leave a link down in the description box below. But without further ado, let's get the car inside and let's get cracking. Okay then, so before we start trying to remove the intake manifold, what I'm going to do is go ahead and disconnect the battery. Okay then, so to disconnect the battery, all you want to do is release the 10mm bolt on the negative terminal. And then the negative terminal can be removed. There we are. Okay then, so let's get started on the intake manifold. First thing you're going to want to do is remove the scuttle panel and the air filter box. Now, you don't need to remove the air filter box completely. I see a lot of people do this. It's an unnecessary step. All you need to do is unbolt it from the car. So in my case, there is actually just two 8mm bolts, but there should be four. So there's one there, one there, one there, and one there. And then you want to remove these trim panels on either side. These just unclip and pull up. And there is two removed. And then you want to go ahead and remove these two connectors. So you have one for the hood, which is the switch that says the hood is open or not. So just go ahead and disconnect that. And then just unclip this from the cabin air filter box. And then we have the AUC sensor on this side. Just go ahead and disconnect that as well. And then we should just have two 8mm bolts holding this entire section in place. So there's one there and one on the other side. And then all we need to do is remove the wiring harnesses from the front. This front section actually just slides out, like so. And so does the rear section as well. That just unclips from the scuttle panel. You might just need a flat bladed screwdriver to release it. There we are. That's both of those removed then. And now the entire scuttle panel should pull away from the car. There we are. Next thing we want to do then is remove this strut brace. So there is one bolt here and then one bolt underneath this cap here. So we'll go ahead and remove this. There you are. Now this bolt here takes an E14 socket, and the bolt in the middle takes an E18 socket. Go ahead and retrieve the bolt. And then the strut brace itself can be removed. Just slides out. We are. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the main engine cover. This should just lift up. There we are, that's that removed. Next thing I'm going to do then is remove the air box. It's just held in by these two 10mm bolts, and then it joins onto the intake boot with a Jubilee clamp, so I'm going to go ahead and release that first. Now the air box should be able to be removed. Oh, you need to disconnect the mass airflow sensor as well. That should just slide out. We can go ahead and remove this from the car now. There we are, that's the airbox removed. And now I'm just going to go ahead and unbolt the power steering fluid reservoir and tuck it over to one side just to give us some more room. Just held in by these two 10mm nuts. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this vacuum line out of the way. Now to do so, it's easiest just to disconnect it from here. All you need to do is push this white clip in and then it pulls out. So we can go ahead and remove this from here now. And I've actually just went ahead and tucked it up into the hood just to get it out of the way. Next thing I'm going to do is remove our intake boot. There we are, that removed. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove the throttle body. It's just held in by four 10mm bolts, one there, and then two the exact same on the bottom. And there we are then, that is all four bolts removed. And now the throttle body can come away from the intake manifold. After you have disconnected it, of course. There we are. It's just one electrical connector that plugs in there. You just have to push in the tab and then that slides out. That's the throttle body removed then. Next thing I'm going to do is disconnect the map sensor that lives at the back of the intake manifold here. There we are, there's that disconnected. I'm also going to disconnect the electrical connector from the large disc valve as well. There we are, there's that removed. Next thing I'm going to do then is disconnect this bracket here that holds the fuel hose in place. Just held in by a T25 screw. This can be removed. Now what I'm going to do is remove this junction box here of all these cables from the intake manifold. Now as you can see, this plastic part here slides into this bracket. Now rather than remove this, remove the plastic part from the bracket, you may as well just go ahead and unbolt the bracket from the intake manifold. So it's held in by two screws. If you take a look down here, it's pretty hard to see, but there is one. They are T30 screws, so there's one there, one on the other side. So let's go ahead and remove them now. So there we go then, that is those two T30 screws removed. And as you can see, this entire bracket is now loose away from the intake manifold. Obviously there is a bunch of electrical connectors that we do need to disconnect, but we will go ahead and tackle them once we have the intake manifold unbolted from the engine. So then I believe the only thing that we need to remove before we can start unbolting the intake manifold is this crankcase breather hose at the back here. Goes directly into the valve cover. This thing can be a real pain to disconnect. There's essentially two push tabs, one on either side. If you can get to the other side, you have to push them together and then pull the hose off. Now, there's a good chance this will break In my case, it doesn't matter if this breaks because we do have a replacement one anyway. As you can see, this does not have its insulation on. This will be covered in the foam. I've already went ahead and removed this a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, I'm going to be replacing this anyway, so it's no big deal. But yeah, let's get this disconnected and then we can start removing the nuts that hold the intake manifold in place. As you can see then, this hose is now removed, and yes, mine did actually snap into two when I went to remove it. It wasn't even on the end that it snapped, it was actually on this part here. So if I was you, I would have a replacement to replace this with, because yeah, there's a good chance it will snap. Okay, so we have a mixture of bolts and nuts holding the intake manifold in place. They are all 11mm, so there is one bolt here, one nut there, one nut there, one nut there, one bolt there, one bolt there, one bolt there. It just kind of goes in a crisscross pattern. So yeah, let's get these removed anyway. Okay then, so this is all of the nuts and bolts removed. There is 4 bolts and 3 nuts holding the intake manifold in place. And now let's pull this thing away from the engine. Now we need to be careful. We don't want to yank this because there is a bunch of electrical connectors that we haven't disconnected yet. So yeah, we just need to be very careful prizing this away. And there we go. Okay then, so there is the intake manifold now removed. Let me explain how we got there. So there is a few things that you do want to disconnect since the last step that I've shown you, but it's almost impossible to get the camera in there and to show you in detail. So I'm going to show you now exactly what you need to remove. So we have this breather pipe here. Now this actually goes in to next to the throttle body, and to remove this, it is a bit awkward, but essentially you need to push these clips together and then pull it off of the intake manifold. So that's the first thing that you want to remove, and then after that it is just a case of disconnecting all of these connectors. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to make sure that all these are disconnected from the intake manifold itself before it can be removed. Don't just try and yank it, otherwise there is a good chance that these will snap. But once you have all of those disconnected, the intake manifold then should be able to be levered away from the engine. So then, now that we have the intake manifold removed, I'm going to swap out these gaskets here. So we do have 6 of them, of course, 1 for each cylinder. So let's go ahead and remove these. And these aren't in too bad shape. I don't know if they are nitrile or not. If they are, then they usually are good to use again. But because we have the intake manifold off, we are going to replace them. For the price that these are, you're best off just replacing them whenever you remove the intake manifold. So now that the intake manifold gaskets have been replaced, I've also went ahead and replaced the crankcase breather system as well, and also replaced the starter motor. It's a good idea to do both of these jobs while the intake manifold is out, because it's not a job that you do want to do again if you do not need to. There's also something that you can do while the intake manifold is out, but it's not actually necessary to do so, and that is replacing the disvalves. I actually replaced both of these, both the outer one and the inner one, without removing the intake manifold. So if you do or don't want to do this task, then that's up to you, but like I said, you don't need to remove the intake manifold to remove the disvalves. Let's get this intake manifold reinstalled back onto the engine anyway. Okay, so I'm part of the way reinstalling the intake manifold, and if you are wondering what the torque setting is for the bolts and the nuts that hold the intake manifold in place, it is just 15 Newton meters. And as you can see then, everything is now back together, and that is the intake manifold removal and reinstall now done. Okay then, so that is the intake manifold removal and replacement done, and I've done those other couple of jobs at the same time as well, and obviously we installed new gaskets for the intake manifolds. Yeah, it's not a too bad of a job. Really, you just want to kind of give yourself as much space as possible, you know, try and hang the cables out of the way, or even remove them completely from your ECU box and then fold them right over out of the way. You want to give yourself as much room to maneuver the intake manifold away from the engine, and then again when reinstalling it. Now when you are reinstalling it, say for example if you have replaced your crankcase breather hoses, be very careful. Make sure you maneuver them in the correct orientation. You know, if you've just replaced your crankcase breather hoses, you don't want to you know, go ahead and snap them. And I guess that's kind of the same for removal as well. If you are not replacing them, then yeah, just be very careful removing them, because they are brittle, they are only plastic, and if you go and tug on them, there's a good chance that they will snap. But yeah, I hope this video has been helpful. Like I said, if you want to purchase the genuine BMW intake manifold gaskets, there will be a link down in the description box below. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace!